Okay, thank you everybody. Thank you for making your way here to 44 Hallam Street. And welcome to the Member Groups Convention for 2015, the Spring Convention. As usual, I've got to go through the safety features of the place. So in the event of a fire, or fire alarm will sound continuously, proceed to the nearest exit, which is down the stairs and out the front. The signs are indicated by green signs, your exit. The assembly point is across the road in Cavendish Mews North. Once outside here, turn left and cross over the road. Passing LA Fitness, resisting all temptation to go inside and have a quick workout while you're here. We're going to try not to keep you seated so long this year as we did last year. So we'll hopefully that'll be okay. Housekeeping, no food or drinks in this lecture theatre. I'm not quite sure what water constitutes, but and of course, sweets don't count as food either. But no smoking anywhere in this building, even if you're slightly annoyed. And keep phones on silent. I won't say switched off, because obviously we would like you to contribute to the social networking and tweet to your heart's content. I know you're all manic tweeters here, so that's good. Okay, just the slide we usually put in, just for those people whose first convention this is the kind of people you're likely to meet here, the kind of people you'll bump into in the networking sessions, who you can have a chat to, gain information about other sections of the BCS, and generally kind of have a good chat. We've got a tight schedule, so I'm just going to whiz through some of these, because you've got slide packs, I understand. So, okay, the theme for the convention is what is BCS? Oh, well, you'll get them afterwards then, yes. Don't panic, Roger, you'll get them. Yeah. So the theme for the convention is what is BCS? The last few years we've had, if you like, an externally facing theme, where we looked, for instance, last year at cybersecurity. We thought that this year we would have a kind of a little more of an introverted look at what we do, what we stand for, what we cover, and it's quite surprising in some areas that the breadth of exactly what BCS is. Plus the fact that we've got changes at various levels, we thought it was an ideal opportunity to pose this question. And there'll be plenty of opportunities today for you to get your views over as well. So that really was the purpose of today. So hopefully you'll take the opportunity to get fully involved with that. The conventions, as you probably remember from last year, we've changed slightly the way in which we structure them now. So the spring one is this event here, which is a major event concentrating on a particularly strong theme. And then the autumn convention, we're now centering around the role-based communities, which we started last year. And that was a very, very successful event. I'm very pleased with the way that went. And we got a tremendous amount of information and intelligence from that. So thanks everybody who did come to that. And we'll be talking more about that later. So there's the agenda for today, which I think you do have a copy of yourselves. The only thing that I would point out is the speed networking session, which will be the first time that we've tried it here, which I think will be interesting. And we've got a slide on that later, and I'll go through the details of that later. We need to be pretty nimble in that session, because we only have the upstairs room until 12:30, and we need to be back down then for Tony's Get Safe Online. So no dallying then, stick to your task. And then we can break for lunch on time, hopefully then. More details about the speed networking later. And then we've got our colleagues from overseas later, after lunch. And then finally, at the end of the day, we've got some unconscious bias training, followed by Twinkies. Okay, there's the website, there's the Twitter hashtag, and to drive the message home, Hallam44, yes, is the password for that, and the information you've got on the back of your badges. Okay, we had the AGM yesterday, so we've got nominations to council, and for the regional constituency, we had 2 vacancies, and Leonard Keithley and Louis Ojuru were appointed there, elected there. I don't know if they're in the room today, are they? Are they here? No, okay, fine. So congratulations to those. The specialist groups representative, 2 valid nominations were received, and Gulami, Andy Matari, is he here today? Yes, okay. Do you want to stand up and say hello to everybody? Yeah? I apologise if I've made a mess of your name, but onwards. So, volunteer awards. We're going to do this a little later, but because our recipient today is still en route. But as you know, we have several layers of awards, and long service, appreciation, meritorious, and the John Ivinson Award. We're very keen that people do put forward colleagues' names for this. And perhaps later on, when I read through the citation for Julian Eli, you will think of people who would also benefit from being recognised for the volunteer work they do. So more on that later. So we'll do that later because Julian's still on his way. So it gives me great delight to pass over now to Paul, who's going to talk us through the group strategy. No, it's just, sorry, the slide's in the wrong way around on here.
Would you like me now?
Yeah. We'll just move you there. Okay.
I don't have any slides, so that's fine. Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me okay in the back? Yes. Good. Well, this is my first address as president of the BCS. Thank you. I formally went through the photography piece with the chain yesterday, which was then very, very quickly removed, put in the safe, and I was given one of those little gold badges instead that says your name, and told to look after that and make sure I wear it at all times. So I put it for safekeeping on the side of the fridge, which is where it still is. So when I turned up today, there was no name badge for me. So I failed in my first duty, but I'm delighted to be here today, and I'm very pleased that we've got the theme for today that we have. It struck me that the BCS does an awful lot of things. It is a big and complex organisation that is going through an awful lot of change, and taking some time to consider our ambitions, our purpose, what we do, what we need to do better, how we can better engage with members, I think is really valuable. We should do it regularly, and I would encourage you through the networking sessions and through the general Q&A today to make sure that you ask yourself that questions and you ask the people at the top table those questions. As Garfield said, the BCS has changed enormously over the last few years. I can remember when we spent an awful lot of time looking inwardly at our governance and our structures and how we needed to change those, at our finances and our financial challenges. And frankly, I think those days are behind us. They are in the past. We had some discussions at the AGM about that. And my view is based on the success that I see the BCS having in attracting members, in working with our corporate sponsors, in working with other organisations. We are doing some great stuff. And that's where we need to focus. Our brand is strong. We're well recognised. Having said that, the Institute is still seen as a technology club in some areas. And that's not necessarily our fault. It's the way the IT industry is perceived. We are seen generally as an engineering discipline, particularly around things like software development and specialist skills like cybersecurity. Extremely important. Nonetheless, the way in which the digital world is developing means that we need professionals who can also engage with business leaders and help to bridge that gap between the creativity that we see in the leaders of industry and the leaders of government and the opportunity that technology can bring for society. So I think we bring great value to our members. I think there is more we can do to develop what we do for future members. We don't have enough young people joining the profession. We need more young people in the BCS. We know we don't have enough women in IT, and I'm delighted to try and continue to support the work of my predecessor, Liz Bacon, who made it her mission to secure more women in IT. And the BCS has won an award for that recently. We're doing some great work in that area, so it proves what is possible. And again, through the executive, we're working much more closely with business and government to secure corporate membership of the BCS, which again will reach out to members who otherwise might not know enough about us. But ultimately, it's what we can do for society. It's the role of technology in supporting an information-rich society that doesn't defranchise anybody who lives or works in the UK and beyond. And we need to work harder at doing that. And in particular, therefore, this year, my theme is around IT apprenticeships. And I'm particularly pleased to be launching that. Coincidentally, I have to admit, because it is National Apprenticeship Week this week in the UK. We need more apprentices. We need businesses to support that. We've had some great work in developing the role of technology in schools and colleges. The government has launched an initiative for cybersecurity apprenticeships this week as part of the National Apprenticeship Week. But there is more I think we can do to encourage this. The value of apprenticeships is that it helps to bridge the gap that we know exists, not just in the numbers of IT professionals, but the fact that there are many people who would like to be an IT professional but don't know where to start. And if you don't have the experience, it is particularly difficult to break in to the profession, because most of the job vacancies that you will see out there are requiring people who have got skills already proven and experience. So apprenticeships in particular offers an opportunity that others don't. So that's really all I wanted to say today. I would like to encourage you to work with me during the year. The year will go very quickly. I'd like to hear from you individually if you have ideas, thoughts, particularly around how the BCS can raise its profile and engage with a broader and richer group of IT professionals, and especially anything that you can do to help the BCS and me further IT apprentices across the UK. That's all I actually wanted to say. I'm very happy to take a few questions if Garfield is comfortable to do that, or we can take them in the interval.
I think we'll take them at the Q&A session at the end, if that's okay. Yeah.
Do you want to do the...
Is Julian here? No, he's
Okay,
not here.
so in which case, I'm very pleased to hand over to Paul. Thank you.
Thanks, Joss. Morning. For those who I haven't had the chance to meet yet, I'm Paul Fletcher. I'm the Group Chief Executive of BCS. I joined 6 months ago. I did get to the previous convention back in the autumn that was held in our offices in Southampton Street. And when I heard from Garfield that the theme of today was all around what is BCS, I couldn't help but want to be here, because I've spent the last 6 months trying to work out what is BCS. And you know, I'm going to take you through just a short few slides and let you know what I've found and what I think is our purpose and our future. And if you like it, then great, we can all get behind it. And if you don't, then I can hear your ideas today and I can pinch all those and use those. So it's a no-lose situation for me here today. So myself and the executive team have spent the last 6 months working on a strategy project. We've done that jointly with the trustee board and council, lots of interaction with lots of stakeholders, to think about why we're here. What is it we're here to do? What is our purpose? And we really started to make progress with this when we decided that actually our role is to make IT good for society. It's all about making IT good for society. So being professional is really, really important and will continue to be so. But you can't just look at that without thinking about the context of our work and the world that we live in. And technological fears have proliferated in society. The newspapers are littered with concerns about privacy or secrecy or data, many other topics that surround technology. And therefore, technology doesn't always have a fantastic reputation in the world in which we live. And our charitable status and our charter means that we're obliged to look outwards. Joss said that we've spent some time looking, perhaps too much time in the past looking inwards, and we absolutely need to look outside at government, society, employers, and the world that surrounds us. So my few slides here are all about how we make IT good for society. So, little picture up in front of you. The small circle is very much the professional story. So we are going to continue to be about qualifications and standards and doing a good job in all of the great work that the people in the room do. But it's also about the bigger circle. It's about the interaction between that profession and the world that surrounds it. So it's both a professional story and a human and societal story. And it's all about galvanizing the sector and moving forward and giving direction. And that's great, because the success criteria shifts much more on outcomes and impacts of the work that we do. And in some ways, what we've been doing here is really stripping things back. This isn't a complete change in direction for the organisation, but we spent a lot of time going back into the original charter, which is written in Old English, so it's a bit awkward to read, but it's still, when you actually look at what it says and the intent and purpose of those words, they are still as true today as they were when it was drafted many decades ago. So how are we going to do this? How are we going to be making IT good for society? Well, we've shaped 3 pillars that we believe are the way to drive that forward: community, excellence, and leadership. Now, they're just words on their own, and I'll clearly go on to try and explain what those words mean. But they're simple, they're powerful, and they're easy to remember. We previously had 5 pillars. I think they were quite difficult to remember, personally. I just about managed to remember them going through an interview process about 8-9 months ago. But I think this is a much simpler way of driving forward our purpose. So what do each of those mean? So firstly, community. I mean, I have a fantastic community that's sat in front of me. And we need to do more to continue to build communities. We're not an island. We live on an island, but we're not an island. And our community also goes beyond IT. Lots of people are worried about technology that don't work in the profession or around it. So community is a really, really important part of what we do. But excellence is where the professionalism bit continues to live and belong and be important. We absolutely have to help IT professionals meet meaningful standards. And our standards have to be valuable and relevant and sought after. So we need to continue that work. And also we need to provide leadership. We need to be brave, occasionally edgy, and we have to facilitate the debate about the really, really important topics in digital and IT and computing that pervade our lives today. And therefore, we can use our independent and respected role as a trusted advisor and really drive those debates. So I'm going to tell you a little bit more about each of those pillars. So one thing that won't surprise the people in the room, we did some market research as part of the strategy work that we did. And we went out to talk to a lot of members and non-members about what they thought of BCS. And the thing that came through as the strongest element of what's good about this organisation, it was the local branches and the special interest groups. Now, I don't think it'll surprise anybody in the room, but that network, that community, that opportunity to meet with like-minded people, exchange ideas, talk about these key topics, was the thing that even non-members thought was the real strength in our organisation. But that also goes across into BCS Learning and Development, our wholly owned subsidiary, where we've got over 100 approved training organisations. So we've got different types of community within our makeup across all the organisation. We also have lots of partnerships. We work with other organisations. We're doing a lot of work at the moment with the Tech Partnership, used to be called eSkills, on the digital skills agenda and the gap that exists in digital skills in the UK. We're also driving forward a potential health federation in informatics, which has been a little while coming, but David and lots of others in the volunteer community have finally got past a tipping point on that, and we're really confident that we're going to drive forward a new foundation in health informatics, and that's coming soon. And it's also our international networks. It's fantastic that we've got people here from the Middle East and America today. We also work with organisations in New Zealand and lots of other countries, and there's a session this afternoon to talk more about our international network and our community there. So it's all about us creating impact in our sector using those communities and networks that we have. Excellence. We're littered with examples of excellence. If you think about the new school curriculum that we launched back in September last year and the network of excellence that supported the launch of that school curriculum, we now have got 17,000 educators as members of that network of excellence. And we've helped the school system launch a completely new curriculum in computer science, which was long overdue and very welcomed by everybody in BCS. We're rolling out our personal development plans and tools jointly with the Tech Partnership. And it's absolutely about driving excellence in our sector. And that means offering all professionals in the industry the means to succeed and move on in their careers, which means we've got to provide the relevant tools, support, and learning to make that happen. Finally, leadership. We ran an event a couple of weeks ago with the 3 technology ministers of the 3 main parties in the run-up to the election. Digital Question Time, it was called. David, to my right, was on the panel along with them. And there were a fantastic range of questions that came from the audience. They were about data protection. They were about digital skills. They were about how to drive tech startups in this country and the fantastic role that the UK is playing in Europe and beyond in driving innovation and disruption in technology, both in startups and more mature companies alike. So we have to absolutely use our knowledge and our skills and our networks to lead the sector. Nobody else is going to do that for us. It's our role, and we have much more permission to do that as an independent organisation with a charitable status than people think we have. So it's absolutely about offering relevant and informed and inspired point of view on the key agenda topics of the day. So just to try and summarise where the executive team, the trustee board and the council see our strategy going forward, our purpose and our why is about making IT good for society. How are we going to do that? We're going to do that through community excellence and leadership. And ultimately, our members, our products and services, and our organisations and our community, just like the people that sit in front of me today, are those that are going to make that happen. Thanks very much.
Hello. So, following on from that, we make IT good for society. We do that through community leadership and excellence. Even I can remember that without having to refer to any notes, which is good. And it's something that's based in our charter. You know, if there's a better expression of it, then I think as an executive team and as trustee board and as council, we've got open ears. But the next stage we've got to work out is what does that actually mean in practice? The first thing I'm really excited about is that it goes beyond our roles, really. You know, I have a staff job working for BCS, you have volunteer positions, but we're all making IT good for society. And so we just have different roles in that, from that point of view. So a lot of you in the room will know me and I know you. So I'm going to ask you a few questions of which I'm fairly sure of the answers. But, you know, I'll be interested to see if you differ. But I'm expecting hands raised, just to be very clear. So how many of you believe that IT is vital to the future of the societies we live in? Okay, I got that one right. How many of you think it will naturally go well if we do nothing? Sorry, okay, it's how many of you think it will naturally go well if we do nothing? Yeah, all of us, the people here, yes. Okay, I got that one right as well. And how many of you think we as an organisation have reached our potential in making IT good for society? 3 for 3, Paul, it's awesome. Okay, and how many of you think you have a role to play in leadership, community and excellence? Yeah, absolutely. So, but what does that mean in your contexts? And that, you know, at the moment, what we've got is a strategy which says this way. And as I say, what I like about that is that we can all say we're going in the same direction broadly, and we all agree on some of those most important things. But what that means in practice is something that we need to we need to do things, and we need to debate them, and then we need to improve, right? So what I would like to do in my session is really listen to you from this point on. So on your tables, if you could, for me, have a little chat amongst yourselves and saying, I've written it down so I can be precise, but so looking outwards to the communities of members and the communities around your locations and topics, what can you do to bring this strategy to life in your groups? So what can you do to make that making IT good for society a reality? You know, who do you need to get on board? How are you going to do that? What does it mean for your groups from that point of view? Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Now, because I know you as a community, this is not a proxy to moan about what isn't happening from that point of view, and I've got snipers in the gallery. But what I'm saying, you know, I think that us as a community debating how we best go about this is a really constructive thing. So all of you are sat on tables with very different groups of people, but, you know, share your immediate thoughts. This is not the end of that conversation when we stop, but it's the start of a conversation that we need to have as a community. So what I'll do is I'll give you seven minutes, and in setting a new tradition, set a timer for 7 minutes.
Okay, 7 minutes and counting.
Cool. Right, shall we come back and share what we've discussed? So anyone want to volunteer some of the ideas that they've been talking about on their table? And there's one microphone coming your way.
Hello. We discussed the fact that we don't have good relationships with our local universities and university students, and there are geek groups and so on going on, for example, in Oxford, which is where my branch is, and we have very little in the way of joint activities and very little in the way of joint membership. So in terms of attracting the young, we could have a lot more publicity and a lot better relationship. We suspect that the special deals for students that used to exist, and that apparently there was a member of staff who used to go around and drum up student membership in universities, and all of that seems to have disappeared as far as we knew. We need to capitalise on overlaps with many other groups in our areas, because nearly everything now has a computing element to it, so there is plenty of synergies with other professional groups and societies and so on. And we think we should make more use of local electronic media, Facebook and so on, within our individual branch areas to keep people up to date and attract new interest.
Sounds good. I think what I'd immediately say to that is, if we've got, you know, what's exciting about us as an organisation is that mandate that we're describing as making IT good for society. There's no organisation that has that mandate to go and do that. And we've got this fantastic group of people to do so. And that actually opening our doors to other organisations and engaging with other groups on a local basis sounds like an excellent idea. And what we can offer to them is, as well as some resource which we have, is that sort of platform and that mandate. You know, that I've personally found it really heartening where I've talked about this to people, to discover that old and young, from any kind of categorisation that you want. This is a unifying purpose, and it's quite an exciting one. And so if you want to reach out to young people, then actually saying, what kind of world do you want to live in? Would you want to come and help us make it better through this, through what you know about, through your professional activity, through your interests, through your talent? That's quite an exciting proposition. I'm tempted to say, and this might be a little bit mean, how many people here have been a BCS member for more than 40 years? 40. You're all right, Joss, I think. Okay. Yes. Okay. And quite a number of you I know. And so who am I to lecture you? I'm not lecturing you on what the purpose of this organisation is. And what I'm quite excited about is that the passion and enthusiasm from people who were members 40 years ago and what they wanted to do is connected to this today. So to some extent, we're getting back to our roots. But what is different is how we have to go out into our communities. So I think we can go proud of who we are, proud of our purpose, with an open hand to people, and engage with those groups. And if we do that, it's something, and we follow what they're interested in, and we follow our purpose, then there's every reason to think that we can be successful. And it means we don't get into a narrow mindset of competing for attention. We get into a broad mindset of how we can affect our societies through this activity. Right, anyone else? Next. Oh, lots. Gosh.
Hello, everyone. We have few things in this relation. It mainly starts with publicity and how we reach outside companies, businesses, small businesses. Do they know what we are doing? Then you go for the family and education level in order to guarantee the future and the knowledge. But when it comes to the publicity, it's not only the fact that do they know about us, but do they consider BCS, being a member of BCS, a criteria? How many interviews any of us have gone, which they ask, if you want to be a computer professional, are you a member? And have we been clear what BCS offers to them, why they should be worried about? The other thing we discussed was about standards and policies. We do ethics and laws, and computer professionals do things without considering, and ethics and laws haven't received the attention they need. When you want to talk about it, there are no policies to force organization into make that into consideration. The same thing comes with the managerial level, to know the importance, and marketing as well. And that kind of summarizes our view.
Oh, that's great. I think, as far as connecting that to our purpose straight away, we want to make IT good for society. We, all of us, if you are an employer, who do you want? Do you want people who want that? Do you want people who are empowered, who feel passionate about what they do? And underneath that purpose is a declaration of all of those ethical values. If you want to make IT good for society, you're not going to do a bad job on designing the security around your website. You see what I mean? It's that kind of thing. It's very exciting. And I think that there's a lot that we can do centrally or as a staff organisation, but the best asset we have is you and your colleagues going out and talking to people and explaining it in those terms. Were you wanting to add something, darling?
Yes, just one. Just to highlight something which I think affects all of us, and you can actually help us achieve, which is to link up with all other relevant professional organizations. And that's a big request, but it's quite possible. BCS has the professional profile in order to be able to do that. And I'm thinking here, following on from this job interview thing, if you go to a job interview, do they ever ask you, are you a BCS member? More likely you say, oh, and I'm a BCS member. And the interviewer looks kind of puzzled and sort of thinks, okay, so what? Yeah. But if, for example, we were to have strong links with the Institute of Personnel Management, or whatever it is, and they promote BCS basic messages and values to their membership, then you've started operating top-down, and members of other associations start promoting BCS. Then you really start to get the move forward, I would suggest.
Yes, and I think that means that actually HR professionals are a really important group for us to reach out to as an example from that point of view. Great. Yes.
Is this on?
If you could put it, if you could put it as so that we can hear it for the audio, that'd be fantastic.
Oh, okay. Is it on? Okay.
Yes.
First of all, can I just repeat, President, it's great as a former apprentice to see the focus on digital apprenticeships. It's absolutely vital that we change the perspective of what an apprentice is, means, and the opportunity it means, particularly for young people, but in fact, everybody across the age range. So that's first a good thing. I'm Paul Excel. I'm the chair, and delighted and honoured to be the chair of the Entrepreneurs Specialist Group. Innovation means two things. An idea, which is really easy. You can get an idea every 5 seconds, if you think about it. It's how you execute it that's the hard bit. And it's that we're trying to help BCS members and indeed the wider society in providing practical advice of how you take that hard bit, i.e. execution, forward through practical mentoring and so on. One of the things that we've done over the last 18 months is develop practical courses to help BCS members and the wider society, and also looking at people who frankly are excluded right now from this opportunity in innovation and entrepreneurialism. We all know this is where it's going to go. We have to be, and by the way, in the community that I work in, live in, breathe in, we are not relevant, and whether the brand is a great one, I'm honoured to be a fellow, but the reality is when you talk to anybody from Silicon Roundabout to Silicon Fen, BCS is not relevant in that community, and we need to be so. And we'd like help and support to make ourselves relevant in that community. We've been talking about startup schools, startup Saturdays, the ability for people to work with various accelerators to develop their business idea to execution, fruition, and really make ourselves relevant through that. And also Peter here to my right and Shakib have been working very, very hard on publicity and awareness. A couple of things that we've been able to do is develop these schools, trial them. We'd very much like to see if they can work in other parts and other geographies. Right now, frankly, we've had to focus where we've got support with great help from the Women's Group, North London branch, the Young Persons Group, Young Persons Specialist Group. We've just talked on our table about taking some of those programs down to Dorset. I had a conversation in coffee about taking perhaps some of those programs to Scotland. We'd be very delighted, of course, to get BCS specialist groups help in terms of if these are good programs and in style of all good collaboration and innovation to take those forward, because we know we've not got absolutely everything right, but what we do know is that with help and alignment we can take those programs forward, and our goal is to have a vision under the wider BCS measure where anybody can be an entrepreneur, successful entrepreneur. Thank you.
That's great. So we make IT good for society. We do that through supporting people who are starting businesses on technology, and we do it so that they create wealth, so they do it well, so that it improves the environment that we live in, our society, and they do it with professionalism and integrity so that they don't immediately lose all of our health data. Next.
I'm Christine Smith. I'm from Manchester. In Manchester, we have quite good link-ups with the universities. The students realise they get a discount if they join, and they do join. They don't seem to come to many events. We haven't quite worked out why. But when they leave university, they vanish. They drop out. The problem is they don't know where they're going to get jobs. They don't know who's going to employ them. And as all the others have been saying, there is no employer that will say, are you a BCS member? Are you actually planning to become a BCS manager? I'm hoping some of these groups you're recruiting will do that. My second point is joining up with other institutions. In Manchester, we are part of the Joint Institution Group, which is the physics, the nuclear, the chemistry. And each September, October, as a group, we visit a series of universities where we have a one-day event showing all the roles and jobs within our respective professions. And the students are in the first year at university. That's how we recruit our members.
That's great. I think, I guess one of the themes of what I'm saying is that the power is to some degree in your hands. There's a certain amount of stuff that I can do, that my colleagues can do. One of the things I do is go and talk to students at some universities about you know, ethics and professionalism, what it means in this context of we want to make IT better for society. We can all do that to some degree, and that we all know people who are hiring managers. You know, we all can lobby for what we believe in from that point of view. And I think with this expression of our strategy, it's something that we can easily describe in a way that I've certainly found it's been more difficult in the past. We get too functionally obsessed. You know, these are the functional reasons why a BCS member is a valuable person. These are the functional reasons why you should join BCS. But actually, it's a values-driven one. Right, anyone? Okay, Adrian, and then we'll come down here at the front after that.
Adrian Williamson, I'm from BCS Scotland Council and the Interaction Specialist Group. We covered quite a few of the things that have already been talked about, so I think we endorse those. The different ones that we had just from our discussion was, firstly, that the Sophia framework is now one where we are seeing it as a way of converting people into picking up the Sophia framework, not as a tool, or not as a framework definition, but as something that can be embedded into, say, a management program. And we felt that was something valuable that people could start to grasp. The second thing I think we're probably echoing, but in maybe a slightly different context, is just somehow where we can connect the expertise and voices within the expertise in the groups represented in this room, somehow with what we might call the BCS broadcast. So in other words, you know, how do we draw out some specialism on interaction or mobile devices or security, which may well be represented here, and channel it forward, not just at national level, but also then obviously across the social media, maybe more locally in terms of different topics. I was just telling a story about interaction when we ran the Lancaster conference some years ago, where we had public events associated with the conference. So we had an interaction conference. It was all about specialism in human-computer interaction. However, in the city of Lancaster and across the university at the time, we also had an arts installation. We dovetailed with some of the groups in the area to say, could we have something that represents that? And we were able to commission some art that reflected the kind of computer introduction that we were talking about. So that, to me, leads on to a much stronger one, which is, if we're engaging with the public, maybe we can start to look outwards and say, actually, for a lot of these things, you don't need to be a member. And I think what I'm saying there is not that you don't pay or you don't contribute, but you are involved with this society, this institute, as something that you can come along to. Maybe you pay a fiver, what you don't pay for, you don't value. But equally, that you're then suddenly immersed in our community and going, oh, that's really quite interesting. Oh, I hadn't thought about that in that way. And of course, these people are then in front of us, not necessarily as potential members, but as people of the public that we can educate and meet exactly the purpose that we have within our particular objects. And it seemed to us that, again, that was something that we might want to work harder on in our groups. And I think, David, that's something that HQ then needs to have a view on in terms of how that runs in terms of a mechanism.
Yes, no, I mean, there's a lot in there, and I think that, sorry?
I made it to you.
Oh, okay, yes. I shall look forward to that. But I think that, what I was sort of hinting at is that there's no one who feels satisfied with how we are on lots of fronts, and we've got lots of works to do to improve ourselves on all sorts of fronts. And I think it's a really important point that we are so obsessed with our boundaries and our taxonomy. You know, I have spent too much time discussing whether or not we're IT or computing or digital or informatics or anything else like that. And that there is a utility to some of those discussions, but it is relatively limited. And we know what this stuff is, and we know we want to make it better for society. And that it's not about the boundaries and the walled garden, it's about the centre. And anyone who has something to add to that, who is interested in that and shares our values, we have something to say to, I think. And we want to hear from, and we want to involve in our community. And so it's that purpose-driven community rather than that certification-driven community. When we're talking about making sure that people have a good IT capability, which is absolutely underpinning to our organisation, those things matter. But in terms of who we want to reach out to and talk to and listen to and debate with, it's as wide as we want to, as we think is valuable. I was at an event last week where we had a social psychologist, an engineer from railway background actually, a CIO, and heaven forfend, a marketing person, all talking about things that were to do with what's holding us back as a professional community and what we need to do better. And it's very exciting. And that's the kind of thing I want to spend my day worrying about, is trying to support that kind of activity. Right, I'm going on too much, sorry, please.
We had an interesting group. We had Adele from the Middle East, which was a regional thing. Christopher and myself, Christopher does service management and I do enterprise architecture, so looking at it from a specialist group. And then Ian, who's BCS and finance and kind of the home base, if you like. And we looked at the whole thing of, making IT good for society. We didn't look at it internally and actually debated that phrase. And it's interesting if you sort of break it apart, because we assume IT is good for society. And we got into a whole thing that actually there are massive impacts that this IT is having on society at the moment. That is perhaps not so good. I got onto a train this morning, guy sat down and he had 2 mobile phones and he was as red in the face as a beetroot. And he was probably going to have a heart attack in the next 6 months. And he was clearly very stressed. And this always-on society we've thrown at people through the industry is creating a lot of human stress. There's a lot of human stress between the young and the old. We talked about the apprenticeships. My son's at Manchester University at the moment. He can't get an apprenticeship. Anyone got one, that'd be great. But I mean, that there is a bridge between the universities and into thing. I talked to him yesterday about a role. He'd never heard of a thing called pre-sales. So there's a whole language in business we use that isn't relayed back to the universities in terms of roles and responsibilities. And this is an important part of that bridge. We also talked about bullying and the younger generation, who many people get drawn into this industry, who are nerds, actually. We're probably all half nerds in this room. I'm a nerd. The whole way that actually the industry attracts a particular type of person who's often quite bullied at school and finds it difficult to communicate. And in fact, there's a very interesting article in the Sunday Times last week that actually the impact of IT on society has created a whole new generation who aren't very good at communicating. So we've got some real issues if we're really going to take this mission statement to the heart of what it is we do. And there's some very interesting issues within it, which have nothing to do with BCS politics or whether I'm the special interest group chair of the blah-de-blah-de-blah. And finally, making. That making word's interesting. We also talked about that. It's about creating. We don't create anything anymore. It's created in China and designed in California, most of it. The real issue is what do we make? We make good software. I was up in Edinburgh last week. We make great software up there. We need to be good at what we understand we know, which is making stuff we can make. But also we talked a little bit about government and forcing government in the terms of making government do stuff. And there's an interesting play on those words with making. So I hope it's a different perspective, but this mission statement we've been given, we should unpack it and really understand what it means to us individually.
Wow, yes. No, well, I mean, that was fantastic, all right? That's why I'm excited about this organisation. I mean, a few years ago, we did some research on whether or not, effectively, IT and communications use was associated with positive well-being. And, you can imagine the horror when you're going, what if it's not? What if actually, to make IT better for society, we should campaign to reduce the use of technology? That would be an interesting sort of spin for us from that point of view. And thankfully, it was a positive thing. It was empowering, it was about freedom and control, and it affected people on lower incomes more than it affected people on higher incomes, and it affected women positively more than men, and that was fascinating from my point of view. But the point is, it is not positive by default. The social psychologist last week was saying the BlackBerry is a device which its sole purpose, its sole intention, is to make you aware you've got an email and to engage you within emails. And so we're these twitchy BlackBerry kind of users, and that the intention in that technology is one that affects society. And whilst some of us may take technology that other people have devised and incorporate it, or we apply it. Some of us do make technology and do make new creative artifacts in this room. But if our values of trying to make IT for society are reflected in our work, what a different world it will be. Gosh, I'm going off on one. Gentleman in the middle. Oh, sorry. Okay, there, and I will go there, and I think we'll probably do our. That's it then. Yes. Oh, okay. But okay, what you've got is a very brief window then for the three of you. Sorry.
David Reynolds, Chair of Project Management Specialist Group. Just a bit of self-promotion here. We like to do joint events with branches, and so far, I think just 2 or 3 branches have asked some of our speakers to come and talk to them, so we're more than welcome to invite some of our speakers along to you. But one of the things we discussed here was about how we get into our local community. I know lots of IT people who hardly know how to spell BCS. It's not seen as relevant to them, but just about every company in the country has an IT person at least in it. And we should be going into our communities and just setting up fora from our local branches, for instance, get all the chambers of commerce, go along to chambers of commerce, do a presentation to them, say, come along to a free afternoon seminar or evening seminars. I'm sure we can do a lot in that area, and it'd be useful if there was some central policy guidelines on how groups can go about doing this.
Yes, and I think that shouldn't be too difficult, but the first thing we've got to do is say permission is there. I mean, not just permission, but sort of a mandate, a requirement to do it. So, yes.
I wanted to put in a plug for the Open Source Specialist Group, which has worked with the Open Source Hardware Users Group and BCS Women and Tech Moms, and has developed open educational resources which enable any branch or anyone in the UK to run workshops for families and school children, getting them to actually build simple hardware and software projects using entirely open source based materials and learning resources. And we're happy to run our shrimping workshops at any branch to enable people to carry out small, simple hardware and software projects.
Sounds great. Okay, last word from the gentleman in the middle.
Hello, Ben. Relation or group. And we're from different branches on the table. Quick thing, leading back to some of the discussion right at the beginning, we had some similar discussion about local meetups and groups, but our positive thing was one thing we can do is try and help them work with each other, because at the moment in our various areas there are lots and lots of local groups who do things independently. What they don't do is necessarily have any way of sharing or pooling resources, so potentially we can encourage them to work together. The other thing was all about membership, so it was about remembering who our community is, both the creators of technology, who most of us are, and think of our membership as creators of technology, but also the users of technology, who may not consider themselves to be anything to do with the BCS or even be using IT. The next generation of people using smartphones and using tablets and using laptops won't consider them to be IT or specialist. They are just things that they do without any special consideration. So we need to make sure that we engage those people who are the important part of the society using IT, both in terms of helping them use the IT in a way that's good for society, but also making sure that we understand from them what is good for them in terms of relaying that to the creators. Also, just a brief comment on promoting membership. Initially, we discussed about promoting membership to young people, but also to anyone within our branches. We were discussing the idea of finding out more about what did BCS do for me, and asking some hard questions about why is it good to be a BCS member, but also going out to our areas that we cover and asking what would it actually mean to you to be a member of BCS? Why would it be useful? And trying to understand the question about if young people aren't joining us, is it because we don't offer them anything? Or is there something that we do offer them but they don't know we offer it to them? And finally on that, we discussed about how at the moment it can be quite hard to become a BCS member, because although we pay lip service to the idea that you can simply pay a subscription and become a member, we don't necessarily make it easy and transparent to become a member, or even help people who want to become a member understand what's the difference between the different levels of membership. So we wanted to figure out, as our branches, understanding the membership better ourselves, so that we could actually promote within our communities what it means to be a member and how people can actually become a member.
Okay, well, I'll just put a little plug in for the new member champion pack that's on the volunteer portal that does hopefully answer those questions. If it doesn't, feedback is always appreciated from that point of view. But we're out of time from that point of view. Thank you very much. I'm excited. I hope you can feel free to be excited and feel free to have quite a broad mandate in your groups to go and pursue this. And I'd also ask, as a favour, communicate it to your colleagues. Talk about this. This needs to be our conversation. Thank you.
Thanks very much, David. That was an excellent session. Yes, quite unscripted as far as the agenda goes, and that was really perfect. Absolutely fitted in perfectly with today's theme, so thank you for that. Okay, I'm delighted that our Julian is here now, and so what I'd like to do now is to discuss the Certificate of Appreciation for Julian. We have a citation which Maggie Nella has written, so if you don't mind, I'd like to read this through. Julian has been a committee member of the Bristol branch for some years, during which he has undertaken a number of roles, including events officer and disability officer. At a time when Bristol branch was struggling with suitable locations for holding its events, Julian successfully negotiated the use of the City of Bristol College in central Bristol, where he worked. It was more central, attracting more attendees, and was significantly cheaper, and for non-chargeable events it was free. Through Julian's efforts acting as the college link for each event, we saw attendance numbers improving, and we're in a position to establish our chargeable schools, which are very popular and usually bring in a surplus of funds. Excellent. Julian hosted monthly committee meetings at his house for several years until we introduced teleconferences. At that time, the committee was struggling to find enough committed members, and Julian managed to find and persuade 2 of the younger staff at the college to join the committee, bringing fresh ideas and enthusiasm. As a disability officer, Julian maintained links with outside organisations, including IT Can Help. He organised a successful all-day conference at the college on behalf of BCS and IT Can Help, drawing in local potential helpers. He has also represented the branch at member group conventions. Julian is one of those people who work tirelessly for the branch and can always be relied upon to undertake whatever task is needed, providing a backdrop in the event of problems. Julian's determination and actions ensured the branch was able to survive and go from strength to strength at a time when costs were high, attendance low, venues for events and committee meetings were a struggle, and needing to find some new blood for the branch was a struggle. Finally, Maggie says, a few years ago, Julian's ideas and actions ensured that the branch had somewhere to hold its events and committee meetings and some new enthusiastic committee members. Ever since then, his determination and hard work have provided the means by which the branch has been able to grow and develop. He has been completely dependable, undertaking whatever tasks were required, and is always willing to go above and beyond the call of duty to ensure that the branch succeeds in whatever it's doing. Julian, thank you very much. And Joss, could you come forward, please?
Congratulations.
I was stunned. I just did what I could, you know. I was in a position in the college to try and benefit the college and the BCS at the same time. And I did what I could to promote the BCS within the students, especially if there were subjects that we were having at branch meetings that the students were dealing with on their coursework. So there was quite a strong overlap. Yeah. So.
Congratulations, and thank you very much. Thank you.